Okay, folks, welcome back to the Hoplite channel. I am your host, Hop, once again. I appreciate you clicking on this video. Samurai Lit Primer Part 1. This is your first time to the channel. Thanks for stopping by. If this is a repeat visit for you, thanks for coming back, as always. So I concluded my Stoicism playlist for the time being. And I thought to myself, well, let's take the channel in the opposite direction. Not opposite as in philosophy, but on different sides of the globe. So with Stoicism, we covered Western philosophy, because Stoicism, that's where it got its root. But I thought I would talk now more about the philosophy of the samurai, which has its root in Zen Buddhism and Bushido. And for this primer series, I was going to start with Bushido. And these virtues here will attempt to explain what Bushido was for the samurai warrior in his day and age. So first of all, we start with the word Bushido. Bushi, Japanese for warrior. Do is the word for way. So, like you have Taekwondo, you have Judo. Those are different disciplines of martial arts. The Bushido was the warrior's way. So it was the path that the warrior would have to walk through life if that was his chosen profession, and if that what he was dedicating his life to was the martial arts, a life of military service, which is also actually where the word samurai comes from. But I'll cover that in Primer 2. But anyway, we start with Bushido and the fundamental 8 virtues of Bushido. And these will make sense if you watch the Stoic primer series and the 3 Titans of Stoicism that I covered. I will cover some famous samurais and their literature, as it were, as it applies to Bushido and the way of the warrior. So the first virtue we see is righteousness. Now, what do they mean by that? And that was that the belief in justice as the supreme order, right? So if you walked the way of the warrior, you were dedicated to a virtue of righteousness, which meant that you exalted the idea of justice above all things, that was the supreme order of your life as a samurai, as someone in the employ of a shogun who was in the employ of the emperor. Righteousness was number one, because without justice, the other virtues paled in comparison. To walk a righteous path was to walk with justice always in mind, and the administration of that justice through your works and your deeds as a warrior. Number 2, courage. Now, we mentioned in the Stoic primer series, of the 4 cardinal virtues of Stoicism, courage was number 2. It's number 2 here as well. And that is accepting risk and harm as the price of glory. So as a warrior, if you don't have courage, you won't have the impulse or the backbone, as a way of putting it, to act on the other virtues. The virtue of courage steeled yourself so that you were able to look at life and the challenges it would give you, with the ability to set aside your fear, set aside your fear of harm and the fear of risk, and to push forward into combat, into adversity, because without courage, you could not find glory. And as the samurai lifestyle was fashioned to seek glory, to seek loyalty and duty to your shogun, to your daimyo, this was something that was highly prized in the warrior's way, in the samurai's life. Third, benevolence. Now, a lot of people don't really think this one would be included among the 8 virtues of the bushi, of a samurai. But benevolence was definitely a virtue that was taught to the samurai as it was instructed through Bushido. And that was to take all opportunity to help, teach, or correct. That included the process in which you were taught or corrected. To be benevolent as a student, but to be benevolent also as a teacher. In things that you did or things that you were instructed upon. When you were a student, everything was new, so you had to give your teacher the benefit of the doubt, as in though he was correct and he would teach you the right way. And then as you became a master, as you went from samurai to master, you would then be that teacher, and you would show benevolence to your students for not knowing the Bushido the way yet. But also benevolence for those who were weaker than you, and for those who relied upon you for defense. So as a samurai, to serve in the court of the shogun and the emperor, your benevolence was to those who were in your care in the city to protect from foreign invasion or from others who would do them harm. Fourth, respect, right? This one should be a no-brainer for the Eastern ideology of order and respect and justice and custom and culture. Respect was, if you expect virtues from others, you must extend the same. And that was, if you believe in these virtues and what they instruct you to do, and what you have to do as far as your life is concerned to make those virtues happen, well, respect is the reciprocity. Okay? If you're a warrior and I'm a warrior, and we both have these 8 virtues as our way, as our Bushido, then I expect you to extend me those same virtues, just as you should expect me to extend them to you. That is where the respect comes into play. And that was a cornerstone of Bushido for the samurai lifestyle. Number 5, honesty. To be a man of both your word and deed. And that went straight back to respect, was that when you were a warrior in the employ of a daimyo, a shogun, or a emperor, a dishonest warrior was useless. You had to be a man of your word, you had to be a man of your deed, and if you were given an order from your superior and you said you would complete it, well, then your words needed to be as good as your actions. And when a warrior said he would do X, you could assume X was as good as done. And that was the honesty virtue. 6, honor, of course. This one, like respect, should be a no-brainer for the samurai. Honor was everything. And that was, you must find out who you are and hold yourself to that standard. That is the essence of honor, is who am I? What do I stand for? What do I believe? What do I want my community to take me as? A fool, a courageous man, a wise man, a man who's prone to the sordid side of life. Am I a gambler? Am I a drunk? Am I one who causes argument? But if I have honor and I hold myself to these 8 virtues as described by Bushido, this is the essence of who I am. And so to find out who you are, if you are a samurai, you must hold yourself to that standard. And that was the underlying theme of Bushido, was to understand your honor and to hold yourself accountable to it. 7, duty. Right? This one, of course, like with respect and honor, duty was part of those 2 things. If you honored your duty and you expected respect from your community and you showed respect, well, then you had a duty, right? You were a warrior, you were going to be courageous, you were going to be benevolent, you were going to be righteous, and your duty was to establish loyalties and honor them. Just as we said in honor, to hold yourself accountable to those things. So if you had a duty to your shogun or your fellow samurai, and by extension through them to the emperor, you were not going to fail, because if duty was one of your virtues, you could not fail at your job. All of these would not matter if you could not uphold your duty, and that was to accept hardship, challenge, and conflict when it came with these other virtues at your disposal. And lastly, but not least, of course, self-control. Also, that this is chief among the Stoic virtues, the 4 Stoic virtues. Self-control, temperance, to be forever under your own control, mind, body, and spirit. And the practice of Bushido, of being a warrior, being a samurai, the self-control was what you needed to learn all of the other 7 virtues. You needed to control your mind so that you could be benevolent when it was called for. You needed to control your body when it came to duty, as in I have a duty, so I've got to pull myself out of bed. And for your spirit, this righteousness, that you would understand justice once you had lived long enough and once you had learned enough of the lessons as a warrior. Your spirit would seek out righteousness and also seek to be a conduit of righteousness through which the world could benefit by your actions and by your deeds. That through your actions and deeds, the world would look upon you and see what righteousness looked like. Self-control, yes, without that, again, all of the other virtues would be nearly impossible to attain, because discipline is what keeps you alive. Self-control is what enables you to stop yourself from falling back into laziness, from falling back into sloth, into vice, into hatred, into lust, into jealousy, into envy, into spite. All of these base instincts that human beings can easily talk themselves into, but very difficultly talk themselves out of. Difficultly. Yeah, that's a word, right? Difficulty. With difficulty. Right, there you go. So yeah, those vices, those instincts to be lesser are easy to walk into. But with self-control, you will hold yourself back from falling into those vices and to maintain these virtues. And you will not find it difficult to do this the more you practice. Okay, difficulty. Anyway, so we're going to read from several source materials. This one is definitely worth making the purchase for. It is the Training the Samurai Mind, and it's a Bushido source book translated by Thomas Cleary. This one is pretty much a collection of lessons by famous and perhaps even lesser known samurai who left behind instructions, lessons, and teachings to future samurai on how to walk the warrior's way. So this is a very good source book. But we're also going to read from 6 other books that are essential if you would like to learn the Bushido as it was taught to samurai, and if you're interested in samurai literature. And these books are, in no particular order, the Hagakure, which is the Book of the Samurai by Yamamoto Tsunetomo, Code of the Samurai, which is also a collection of works, also translated by Thomas Cleary. And then you have 4 others, which are fantastic. The Demon's Sermon on the Martial Arts by Isai Chozanashi, translated by William Scott Wilson. The Life-Giving Sword, The Secret Teachings from the House of the Shogun. This is by Yagyu Munenori, and he is one of the more famous samurais in Japanese history. Also by William Scott Wilson. The Unfettered Mind, and this is a writing done by a Zen Buddhist philosopher master by the name of Takuan Soho. And he wrote that actually for his friend Yagyu Munenori. And that was also William Scott Wilson translating that. And William Scott Wilson translated the last book, one of my favorites, The Book of the Five Rings by Miyamoto Musashi. Musashi it was the Achilles of the Japanese samurai era, although he was a real man. Musashi, probably, if you've only heard of one samurai, chances are it's him. He's that famous, he's that well known, and he left the Book of the Five Rings as his last gift to his culture to hopefully teach samurai that would come after him what he learned over the course of his life as a samurai, and what they would be wise to take note of and to learn from as they walked the Bushido. Okay, anyway, we are going to pick up with a primer part 2 in the next video, and I'll flesh out more of Bushido and samurai literature and some of the figures who were responsible for it, as well as some of the core tenets of it. For the first reading, we'll start with Takuan Soho's Unfettered Mind, because I think it's a very good place to start as far as the understanding of Bushido goes. as explained to a samurai by a Zen Buddhist monk. So it's interesting to get a priest's take on how a samurai should think and interpret the world if he hopes to be a better swordsman and a better soldier. So anyway, I appreciate you coming by for Samurai Lit Primer Part 1 on Bushido. We'll pick up with Primer Part 2 in the next one. Till then, take it easy, and we'll see you then.